Hello, everyone. This is my LMS Screencast. I teach at Derry Township School District at Hershey High School, and at Hershey High School we use Canvas. I've used Canvas for quite a while for both AP Human Geography and also AP US History, but I never did a blended course before. So I've created this blended unit on population, and I've used a bunch of different things that are useful within Canvas. As you can see by the way it's laid out here, it's got parts. So I got part 1, 2, 3, and 4. In some cases, I have links to other things involved here. As students sort of work their way through, they have a choice of how they go through it. It's available 24/7, so they can work through the way that they want to. And then there's basically culminating activities that sort of bring it all together. At a couple of points, they have actual assignments to hand in. So, for example, here's a Google presentation assignment in part 3. That's a real hand in, or this Google form quiz assignment for part 4. But also during my unit, we're doing things in class. So there's some face-to-face stuff that's sort of supported within the blended unit on Canvas. The first page is the student expectations, which we worked on in the blended and flipped course. So these are expectations listed. I tend to have very high functioning students, but that doesn't mean that they don't like to know what the expectations are and will have a lot of questions. So I go into quite a bit of detail here. I also explain how the grading works down at the bottom there. As an example of the things that we do in any particular part of the blended unit, here's part 1. In part 1, they do take a population pretest, which is actually a Google form that I created. And then they also take an Ed puzzle. So this is brand new for me. So I heard of people using Ed puzzles before. There's this video that we tended to watch in class and do a worksheet and discussion with that now I can have students go watch the video, and I've already set up questions along the way. Not only have I set up questions along the way, at a couple points in the video, I pop them out to an interactive website where they work with statistics and sort of solve a problem. So the Ed puzzle is bringing a whole lot of different things together for me. In Canvas, some applications work sort of naturally. So I was able to link the Ed puzzle to Canvas. So the Ed puzzle actually will communicate how students do into Canvas. So Canvas has a lot of ways to extend the function, like a lot of other LMSs do. In part 3 here, they're going to watch the screencast that I pop in here that is my screencast, but they're also going to do some physical stuff. So there's a couple of handouts they need to have and a couple of lists and things they need to carry out part 1. In part 2, similarly, they're doing some digital stuff. So they're watching videos about 3 different topics. This is from our assignment in the blended and flipped course. And then they're going to do some physical things. They're going to create population pyramids while they're actually in class. In part 3, they will work on a presentation, a Google presentation, which they will work on either by themselves or with another person, in which they will select what the topic will be. So that gives them a little freedom of choice. They're going to use multiple things that they already learned about in other parts of the blended unit, and they're going to use these particular resources to be able to do that. One of the resources, just as an example, is one that is highly interactive. So as you can see, when this loads up here, this is a way to actually look at population statistics within the web browser itself, and students can actually manipulate what things are around here. So really useful resource. It's called Gapminder. They're also using other things. I mean, one of the things that we're talking about in the LMS screencast is things that actually interest our students. Some students tend to kind of like the statistics we have to do in the population unit, but a lot of students are really tied into what other people's lives are like. So I got a couple of pretty relevant things here. There's something called Dollar Street and something called World Schools that is actually part of the presentation. On Dollar Street, which is actually part of the Gapminder thing, which was that interactive graph I just showed you, you can see how people live around the world. You can choose exactly what you're looking at, families, their houses, things they love, etc. And you can find out all kinds of amazing information on the way people live. So that's a really useful part of the population unit because it's super relevant to the lives of a lot of students. I sometimes have students that come from all over the world, and they have some experience with that. Another thing they're going to do is take a look at some pictures of students around the world. And in these pictures of students, they're given no clue as to where the place is. So, based on all their population statistics, they're going to make some educated guesses on where they think these places are and describe why. And then, as part of the culminating part of the whole blended unit, will actually match them up. Okay, so those are some things that particularly drive interest. What also drives interest is that students kind of like to obviously interact, even though this is a blended online digital unit. So in part 4, students are actually going to take their experience of the quiz they took way at the beginning, and they're going to create their own quizzes based on their countries and their Google presentation. And then students are going to look at other Google presentations and take other people's quizzes. So this is kind of a way to bring the entire unit back together. It was also mentioned, we were also supposed to mention in the LMS Screencast, what do students do if they need help? Okay, so in some parts of the unit, students are working together, which tends to solve problems. In some parts of the unit, we are doing things face to face, although they can work on this obviously at home. And I hope that this is also solved by the fact that I tend to be in the class, or that there are so many details on student expectations. So thank you very much for joining me.